that, ladies and gentlemen, a powerful truth echoes through history. Those who dare to act boldly shape the future. And today, that the world watches as India takes a step that is shaking the global stage, a decision not of hesitation, but of conviction, a move that says that we will choose our path, that no matter who stands in the way. Bold decisions shape the future because they act as turning points that alter the trajectory of nations, that organizations and individuals. In the context of a country like India making a decisive move to export to Russia despite global tensions, that such an act goes beyond immediate economic calculations, that it becomes a defining moment where the choice made today lays the foundation for the opportunities and challenges of tomorrow, that a bold decision is often taken in the presence of uncertainty, risk, and opposition, that it requires vision, the ability to see beyond the current obstacles and into the realm of what could be. Without such vision, that it is easy to remain trapped in the comfort of the familiar, repeating the same patterns, that and allowing external forces to dictate the course of events, that history has shown time and again that societies which dared to break free from imposed limitations ultimately wrote new chapters in the world's story, that when leaders refuse to be confined by fear of consequences or disapproval from powerful entities, they send a clear signal that they are willing to take responsibility for their destiny, that this mindset does not arise from recklessness, but from a calculated understanding that progress often demands a departure from safe, predictable routes, that every era has been shaped by individuals or nations that decided to act when the stakes were high and the outcomes uncertain, from revolutions that birthed new nations to strategic partnerships that shifted global balances of power, that these moments are rarely comfortable. They demand courage under pressure and resilience in the face of criticism. A bold decision may initially provoke resistance or invite challenges, but over time it creates ripples that can transform entire systems, that it inspires others to act with similar resolve, creating a chain reaction of change, that the real measure of such a decision is not just in its immediate effects, but in how it influences the long-term course of events, that paving the way for independence, innovation, and strength, that when a country like India stands firm in its decision, despite warnings from a superpower, it redefines its role on the global stage, that signaling that its policies will not be dictated by external agendas. This assertiveness builds credibility, enhances negotiating power, that and sets a precedent for future actions. The legacy of such decisions often endures for generations, that becoming a source of national pride and a benchmark for future leadership. The world may watch with skepticism or even hostility at first, but history has a way of vindicating those who dared to lead when it was easier to follow. In truth, that the future is never shaped by indecision or compromise that dilutes one's vision. It is shaped in the moments when leaders, that, guided by purpose and conviction, take a stand knowing that the path ahead is uncharted, yet believing it leads to a stronger, freer, and more self-reliant tomorrow. That trade as a statement of sovereignty means that economic relationships and commercial exchanges are not just about goods, services, and profit. They are also powerful expressions of political independence and self-determination. That when a nation chooses its trading partners based on its own strategic interests rather than external pressures, that it is essentially declaring that its economic policy will be guided by its own priorities, values, and vision for the future. That this becomes especially evident in situations where trade decisions run counter to the preferences of more dominant global powers. In such cases, that every shipment, every contract, and every agreement becomes a symbolic act that reaffirming the nation's right to decide how it will engage with the world. Sovereignty in trade is more than a legal concept. That it is an assertion of control over one's economic destiny. For a country like India, that continuing or initiating exports to a partner like Russia, despite strong warnings from the United States, is not merely a matter of supply and demand. It is a demonstration of political will. That it signals that the nation will not allow external actors to dictate whom it can or cannot do business with. That this is a critical aspect of maintaining autonomy in an interconnected, yet politically charged global marketplace. That trade agreements are deeply intertwined with diplomacy, defense, and national identity. That a country's economic alliances can strengthen its bargaining power on the world stage, that allowing it to negotiate from a position of confidence rather than dependency. That when a nation shows that it can and will choose partners according to its own assessment of mutual benefit, that it also sends a message to both allies and rivals. Its decisions are rooted in its own analysis of what serves its people best. That such a stance often invites criticism, diplomatic pressure, and even sanctions, but it also earns respect from those who value independence. That history has shown that nations which consistently make trade choices aligned with their own long-term goals tend to emerge stronger and more resilient to global disruptions. That in the modern world, where supply chains are complex and political influence is often exerted through economic channels, that the ability to direct trade policy without bending to coercion is a vital component of true sovereignty. That for countries seeking to establish themselves as equal players in global affairs, that exercising this autonomy in trade is as important as maintaining control over their borders, defense, or internal governance. That it becomes a declaration that their role in the international system is not to merely comply with the will of others, but to actively shape the terms of engagement in ways that secure their own prosperity and security. That each trade decision in such contexts becomes more than an economic transaction. It becomes a clear, that visible statement of national identity and determination. That affirming that the right to choose one's economic path is inseparable from the right to determine one's political future. That defiance in the face of pressure is the ability to remain steadfast in one's convictions despite overwhelming external forces attempting to influence, that intimidate, or coerce a change in course. It is a quality that has shaped the fate of nations, leaders, and movements throughout history. That when a country like India receives strong warnings from a global superpower, such as the United States, over its decision to trade with Russia, that the moment becomes more than a matter of commerce. It turns into a test of national resolve. Pressure can take many forms. That diplomatic ultimatums, economic sanctions, political isolation, or media campaigns aimed at swaying public opinion. That the easier path often lies in yielding, making compromises, or quietly stepping back to avoid confrontation. But defiance chooses the harder road, the road where principles outweigh convenience. And long-term sovereignty is valued more than short-term comfort. This kind of defiance is not blind stubbornness. That it is a calculated decision to protect a core interest, to uphold the integrity of one's choices, and to send a signal that independence is non-negotiable. For nations, this stance builds credibility on the world stage. That other countries watch closely, and when they see a nation resist, bending under heavy pressure, that they recognize it as a player capable of defending its positions. Defiance, when rooted in justice and strategic necessity, that can inspire both domestic pride and international respect. However, it also comes with risks. Standing firm may lead to strained relations, that loss of certain markets or punitive actions, yet the long-term gains, maintaining control over policy, setting a precedent for self-reliance, and proving resilience often outweigh the temporary losses. Defiance in these situations is also a matter of psychological strength. That external pressure is often designed to create doubt, fear, and hesitation, eroding the confidence of those making the decision. That a steadfast response shows that the pressure has failed to achieve its goal, and that the nation's decision makers cannot be swayed through intimidation alone. That history is filled with examples where such defiance has shifted global perceptions, altering alliances and changing the balance of power. That in the modern geopolitical arena, where influence is exercised as much through economic leverage as through military might, that the refusal to yield sends a powerful message. This is a nation that chooses its path based on its own assessments, not on the dictates of others. That such a stance resonates deeply with citizens, reinforcing a collective identity built around self, respect, and national pride. That it tells the world that while partnerships and cooperation are valued, that they cannot come at the cost of losing the ability to make independent choices. Ultimately, defiance in the face of pressure is a test of courage, that a demonstration of willpower and a declaration that the foundations of sovereignty are worth defending even when the cost is high. That history favors the courageous because the events and leaders remembered across centuries are not those who played it safe, but those who dared to act decisively in the face of uncertainty and danger. Courage has always been the catalyst for change, that the force that propels individuals and nations beyond the boundaries of fear and conformity. When boldness meets vision, that the outcome often reshapes the course of history, leaving behind legacies that inspire generations. In the context of international politics, that a country that stands firm against powerful opposition, as India has done by pursuing trade with Russia despite warnings from the United States, that demonstrates a kind of bravery that transcends immediate economic or diplomatic concerns. That such courage is rooted in conviction, the unwavering belief that the chosen path serves a higher purpose, whether it be sovereignty, justice, or long-term prosperity. The annals of history are filled with moments when courage altered destinies, revolutions that broke the chains of colonialism, leaders who stood against oppressive regimes, and movements that challenged deeply entrenched systems. These moments were never free of risk. In fact, the very essence of courage lies in acting despite the risk, in choosing principle over comfort, and in facing the unknown with determination. That nations and leaders that embody this spirit often face criticism, isolation, or even punishment in the short term. But time has a way of vindicating them. Decades later, the world tends to honor those who acted with integrity under pressure, recognizing that their bravery paved the way for progress. Courage inspires others to find their own strength, creating a ripple effect that extends far beyond the original act. When a country resists bending to the will of a superpower, it signals to smaller nations that independence is possible, that global influence can be resisted, and that dignity can be preserved even in an unequal balance of power. This not only strengthens the nation internally, but also redefines its image internationally, turning it into a symbol of resilience. Courage also plays a vital role in shaping the narrative of history. that victories achieved through cautious compromise rarely stir the hearts of future generations, but the stories of those who took risks that faced adversity head on and emerged with their principles intact are retold endlessly as sources of inspiration. In a rapidly changing world where alliances shift and power structures evolve, that courage remains one of the most valuable currencies a nation or leader can possess. That it is the spark that ignites transformation and the foundation upon which lasting legacies are built, even when outcomes are uncertain. That the willingness to act boldly ensures that a place is secured in history's memory, not as a passive observer, but as an active shaper of events whose impact is felt long after the moment has passed. That true power lies in vision, because the greatest strength a leader or a nation can possess is the ability to see beyond the immediate horizon and imagine a future worth striving for. That vision is a compass that directs action, the force that shapes decisions, and the spark that inspires people to move forward even when the path ahead is filled with uncertainty. Military might, economic resources, or political influence can be powerful tools, but without a guiding vision, they often lead to short-lived gains or misguided priorities. Vision transforms power from mere dominance into meaningful leadership because it connects today's efforts with tomorrow's possibilities. When a nation like India chooses to chart its own course in global trade, despite pressure from powerful allies or adversaries, it is demonstrating that its actions are not just reactions to present circumstances, but deliberate steps toward a future it has clearly defined for itself. Vision requires clarity of purpose. Knowing what kind of nation you want to be, what role you want to play in the world, and what principles you refuse to compromise. It is not simply about resisting external influence, but about having a roadmap that aligns with long-term goals, whether they involve economic self-reliance, technological advancement, or geopolitical independence. Leaders who act with vision often face skepticism, because the fruits of their decisions may not be visible immediately. However, their ability to endure criticism and stay focused on the bigger picture is what sets them apart from those driven only by short-term gains. That vision is also deeply connected to resilience. Challenges, setbacks, and opposition are inevitable, but a clear and inspiring vision provides the motivation to keep moving forward. It unites people under a shared goal, making it easier to withstand external pressure and internal doubts. In international relations, vision allows nations to rise above momentary conflicts and focus on shaping a future where their values and interests remain protected. History shows that those who wield power without vision often lose it quickly, while those who combine power with foresight leave a lasting legacy. Vision enables leaders to anticipate changes in the global landscape, adapt to shifting alliances, and invest in opportunities that may seem risky in the present, but prove transformative over time. It turns power into influence, and influence into lasting impact. When decisions are made with vision at the core, they resonate beyond immediate circumstances, inspiring not just the current generation, but those yet to come. In this way, true power is not measured by the ability to command or control in the moment, but by the capacity to see, shape, and secure a future that aligns with one's deepest values and highest aspirations, even when the world demands otherwise. This is a defining moment because certain events in the life of a nation mark a clear turning point, separating the past from the future in ways that are irreversible. These moments are not just about immediate circumstances, they carry the weight of history and the promise of what lies ahead. A defining moment is when choices made under pressure have the power to shape a nation's identity, its role on the global stage, and the destiny of its people for years to come, India's decision to maintain trade with Russia despite strong warnings from the United States is one such moment. It is not simply a matter of commerce, but an assertion of autonomy. A public declaration that the country's policies will be shaped by its own judgment rather than dictated by external powers. These moments are rare because they come at the intersection of risk and opportunity, where the path forward is uncertain, but the stakes are undeniably high. A defining moment tests leadership, revealing whether decisions are made out of fear or conviction. The way a nation responds to such challenges becomes a story future generations will study. Not just for the outcome, but for the principles that guided the choice. In international relations, such moments are also signals to the world. They tell allies and rivals alike what kind of partner or opponent a country will be. They shape perceptions, influence alliances, and often inspire similar acts of independence in other nations. For the people of the nation, these moments can ignite a sense of pride and unity, reinforcing the belief that their country is capable of standing firm even under pressure from the most powerful actors in the world. They become reference points in national history, the times leaders point back to when justifying future policies, and the milestones that citizens remember as proof of their country's resilience. But defining moments are also fragile. They demand careful navigation, as the consequences of the decisions taken can open doors to new opportunities or lead to difficult challenges. What makes them powerful is not only the choice itself, but the vision and courage behind it. In the case of India, this decision reflects a broader determination to operate as an independent force in global politics, charting a course that aligns with its own long-term interests rather than those of others. It is a chance to cement a reputation for strength and strategic clarity. But it also carries the weight of proving that such independence can lead to lasting benefits. When history looks back on these times, it will not be the pressure applied by others that will be remembered most, but how that pressure was met, whether with hesitation and retreat, or with resolve and forward motion. Moments like this have the power to define not just a season of policy, but the character and direction of a nation for generations.